Jeff Sachs. I'm director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University and also director of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which promotes the new Sustainable Development Goals under the auspices of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. I wish I could be with you at this very important gathering, but unfortunately my schedule did not make it possible. But I am grateful for the chance to come by video. The issues that you've been discussing on data for the Sustainable Development Goals are, of course, critical and timely. And I do want to urge you to give a clear account of what the scientific community can present and prepare and what the scientific community needs in order to be able to carry out its unique role in helping to monitor and provide high quality and timely data for the Sustainable Development Goals. It seems to me that we have a completely unprecedented opportunity to mobilize massive data from many different fronts, building on the information and communications technology revolution to be able to do what we could not do during the Millennium Development Goal period. And that is to have real-time big data available for many of the core Sustainable Development Goals. I see four categories that I hope you will report on. The first, and I know it's dear to your hearts and core to the meeting, is geospatial data. Given satellite capacities now, given the possibilities of low Earth orbit satellites coming into service in the next year, and thereby able to map the Earth's surface even on a daily basis, we will be able to use the massive amount of remote data, satellite data, for crucial purposes. Obviously, this includes being able to detail, really for the first time in history, in real time, where human populations are, to be able to monitor and measure not only vegetative cover, but also with more sophisticated readings, crop varieties and crop yields, even as they're developing through the growing season. Obviously, we're using these kinds of data already to measure the trajectories of deforestation or afforestation and reforestation, the capacity to use remote sensing and satellite readings for measuring forest cover obviously are improving dramatically. There are big breakthroughs in the capacity to measure soil chemistry, and of course, with new NASA satellites, soil moisture, and also groundwater changes in real time. We're going to need to develop improved capacities to monitor both through remote sensing and also, I hope and expect, through satellite reading nitrogen and phosphorus fluxes, which play such a crucial role in disturbing ecosystems and which are major threats, of course, to estuaries and to marine and coastal environments in many places. Satellite data are already being used and will be used, of course, even more for disaster early warning systems, disaster preparedness, managing responses to disasters, all of which are part of the new Sustainable Development Goals. I do hope that you can provide guidance to the policy community on how we can use geospatial data to capture much more detailed information about biodiversity and species abundance, and better real-time measures of various dimensions of air and water quality. One thing I think is very clear when we look at the goals such as goal number 2 on sustainable agriculture, goal number 11 on sustainable human settlements, goal number 14 on sustainable marine ecosystems, and goal number 15 on sustainable terrestrial ecosystems. We do need a massive upscaling of the quality and the coverage and the timeliness of data in all of these dimensions. I feel that in the area of agriculture in particular, we need to know a lot more from the farm level to landscape level to regional level about farm dynamics, crop dynamics, water access, water availability, and of course, various adverse impacts of agriculture, whether it's greenhouse gas emissions, nitrogen and phosphorus fluxes, fresh water depletion, deforestation, loss of habitat, and so forth. And you, as the scientific community with expertise in geospatial data, will be critical. The second main dimension that I want to mention is our need and capacity for a worldwide facilities mapping to understand where clinics, schools, hospitals, water points, transport junctions are in relation to human populations. We now have the capacity through crowdsourcing, using smartphones with the point-and-click programming to put online worldwide all of the major service facilities in education, in health, and in core infrastructure. And this is something I believe that should be done very early on and then overlaid with the population maps so that we have a good understanding within the next 1 or 2 years where there are major spatial gaps of access to critical facilities for social services or for other basic needs such as fresh water. And this is now within our capacity if we organize the effort. What would have taken 5 or 10 years to collect such data can now be collected in a matter of weeks or months in a kind of crowdsourced strategy. We did some of that ourselves at the Earth Institute in collaboration with the government of Nigeria in recent years, and we believe that this kind of global mapping is absolutely feasible. A third area where new and big data are possible is in the entire area of service provision. What happens in clinics, what happens with the community health workers, what's happening in the schools. Again, what used to be reported in household surveys that perhaps lagged current realities by 3 or 4 or 5 years and are very expensive to carry out, can now be collected and amassed in big data almost in real time. If we have individual unique identifications that can track patient coverage, can have electronic medical records, can track the performance and activities of clinics and community health workers, and where the information on health and education and infrastructure can then be turned into policy dashboards so that policymakers can see our children in school, not just on enrollment day in the fall, but all through the year. Our new epidemics being addressed, are people being facilitated with the community health provision and so forth. I believe that a data revolution makes all of this possible if we are strategic about doing this. The fourth area that I wanted to mention is the new Internet of Things, meaning the remote sensing, the monitoring devices that are going to link machine to machine, whether it's on infrastructure, transport vehicles, buildings, and so forth, in a new way to understand how our infrastructure is operating, to see breakdowns in real time when they occur, to help facilitate logistics, transport flows, and so forth. And clearly, most places in the world are not yet ready for the Internet of Things, but with foresight and planning, we can have the kind of monitoring for functional delivery of infrastructure services in ways that will dramatically improve productivity and economize on energy and resource use, that will track and prevent waste spread into the environment. And so this is another area where obviously we're going to be able to make breakthroughs. The final area that I want to mention is specifically measurement for the new Sustainable Development Goal indicators. As you know, on September 25th, the UN General Assembly approved the 17 goals and the 169 targets, but not yet the indicators. We still have a major heavy lift to get scientifically sound, reportable, measurable data to track the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. We really need the inputs of IUCN, UNEP, and the overall scientific community on what the best indicators will be, and on a list of indicators that does not run into the hundreds, but focuses on the most crucial several dozen indicators that can be collected in all countries in real time. Now, all of this is feasible, but it's a huge organizational challenge, and it's a huge challenge of cooperation. We know that many governments are collecting a lot of information, but for other reasons, surveillance, intelligence agencies, and so forth. The U.S. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is a multi-billion-dollar facility with remarkable worldwide capacities in geospatial data. I believe that a lot of this can be publicly available for development purposes. We know that Google and other private companies have massive amounts of geospatial data, and I believe that they will also be ready to cooperate, because so much of this is already freely available, so that we have cooperation of the private sector as well for this massive use. But what I believe we really need is the scientific community coming forward and saying, here are the things we can do, here are the systems we can build, here are the Earth observation systems for the Sustainable Development Goals that we can put in place, here are the motivations and reasons to do it. I can tell you without doubt that the policy community wants to hear from you your best advice on how we should proceed. These new Sustainable Development Goals are for a 15-year period. They start January 1, 2016. They end December 31st, 2030. It goes with the blink of an eye. We have to move very fast, very early on, to build the information systems, the feedback loops, the warning signs on systems going awry, on massive environmental threats or threats to goals such as ending poverty. And we have to get this in place in a very short order. I want to work together with you in my capacity as a senior UN advisor and as director of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network to get these systems operational, to get them properly funded, properly invested in, to get the global cooperation with international organizations and private businesses that we're going to need to get the job done. But I believe we can do it, and I know you've been working very hard on this for many, many years. I think the time has arrived for a specific launch of detailed recommendations, because this is exactly what we're going to need for success in the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you for this short message, and I very much look forward to catching up with you and hearing about the conclusions of your crucial meeting. Thank you.